After 50 years together, he revealed his first love, the shocking truth that ended everything. The house was quiet, suffocatingly so, as Bert sat on the edge of the sofa, fingers trembling. 50 years of memories flashed through his mind like old, flickering film reels. Each moment weighed heavy, the laughter, the arguments, the shared joys. But now, a chilling secret hung in the air, a truth that threatened to unravel everything he had built. As he stared at the family portraits lining the walls, one photograph seemed to pulse with energy. There she was, Mary, his high school sweetheart. She looked radiant, with a carefree smile that could light up the darkest of days. But the deeper Bert looked, the more he felt a sense of dread creeping in. It was almost as if her eyes were pleading, revealing hidden layers of their shared history, layers he had buried deep within. The date was carved into his memory, an anniversary that blended romance with guilt. That night over 50 years ago, the last time he spoke her name, had sewn invisible threads of deceit through his heart every day since. A strange flicker of unease twisted in his gut as he thought about what would happen if his wife, Elaine, found out. What if she could see those threads unraveling before her eyes? Just then, the door creaked open. Elaine stepped in, her eyes filled with warmth. She didn't suspect a thing, and yet, in that moment, Bert's heart raced. How could he keep this from her? The lump in his throat grew as tension hung thick in the air. Would he shatter her world? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the chilling silence engulfed them, a storm of emotions brewed. Bert could feel beads of sweat trickling down his brow. What is wrong? Elaine asked, her brow furrowed, dangerously close to sensing the turmoil within him. The spark of panic ignited in him. What if he blurted it out? What if he confessed to the darkness hidden behind a facade of normalcy? The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. The very foundation of their lives trembled like an earthquake beneath his feet. Just then, he saw the glimmering shadow of a distant truth hiding behind her sweet smile. What if this wasn't just about him? What if the past reached out, threatening to engulf them both? Bert's eyes widened. Could their love survive the torrential waves of the past, or would it crash and burn in an uncontrollable inferno? With his heart racing and hands trembling, Bert wondered one last time, was he ready to unleash the secret that could tear them apart, once and for all? Bert's breath caught for a moment, as if the very air around him thickened with tension. He couldn't let her look into his eyes. He had to look away. He focused on the coffee table, on the little scratches where the wood had worn down over the years. You're being so quiet, Elaine pressed gently. Talk to me. What is weighing on you? Her concern sliced through the haze of Bert's mounting panic. Every instinct screamed at him to protect her, to shield her from the fallout. But the very thought of hiding it felt like another betrayal. He felt trapped between love and loyalty, a tug-of-war between duty and awakened memories. It's just, he choked out, his voice barely a whisper. I've been thinking about our years together. All the good times and some memories that aren't so clear. Unease settled over Elaine's features, a frown replacing her earlier warmth. What do you mean? What is there to think about? We've shared a wonderful life. Yeah, we have, but some things from the past never really go away, you know? He struggled to keep his voice steady, fearing the crack would betray the storm brewing inside him. Elaine's expression shifted as she sensed the distance growing. She moved closer, placing a hand on his knee, grounding him amidst the swirling chaos. Bert, it's okay to share whatever is bothering you. You can trust me. He looked at her then, really looked, and the agony washed over him. If only she knew how deeply woven his truth was with that of Mary. What if there is something I need to tell you? Something you never imagined would come between us? Her eyes widened slightly, fear and confusion mingling there. What do you mean? Every word felt like a weight on his tongue, heavy and dangerous. It's about Mary. Just saying her name sent shivers down his spine. Memories rushed at him, uninvited yet familiar. The laughter they shared, her laughter that was once so contagious, now it was a haunting echo that rang painfully. Could he ever explain the bond they had, the fierce love? Elaine tightened her grip, demanding his gaze. "Tell me," she urged, determination creeping into her soft voice. He took a deep breath, feeling the knot in his chest tighten further. "I never really moved on from her, not completely. She was my first love, and I thought I had buried that part of my life. But it's like a ghost that haunts me. It's always there." Silence fell heavy between them. Bert felt the room shift, the air electrified as Elaine processed his revelation. "You still think about her?" she finally asked, pain lacing her words. "I don't want to," he confessed, "but I can't help it. It's a part of me." A flicker of hurt crossed her face, quickly replaced by resolve. "So, what does that mean for us?" "Are you saying?" Her voice trailed off, and the inevitable question hung in the air, potent and frightening. Bert didn't know how to answer. The pounding of his heart mirrored the swirling thoughts in his head, all of which screamed for honesty, but were terrified of its implications. "I have to figure this out." Just then, an unexpected sound shattered the tension, a series of knocks at the door. Startled, they both turned toward the sound, their hearts racing in unison. Who could it be at this hour? As Bert hesitated, glancing at Elaine, the knocking came again, more insistent this time. Something deep within him trembled at the thought of what or who might be waiting for them beyond that door. Because in that moment, he realized the past was not done with him yet. It might just be starting the real chaos. Elena's eyes reflected a mix of fear and curiosity. "Go check," she urged softly. "But," she swallowed, "don't keep anything from me. We can face whatever comes together." And with that, Bert felt the world spin around him once more, leaving him with one haunting thought. What if this was just the beginning of a truth he wasn't ready to face? What if the secrets hidden at that door would change everything once again? Bert's heart raced as he rose from the couch, the weight of Elaine's expectation pressing heavily on him. Each step toward the door felt like he was trudging through quicksand. The knocking thundered again, urgency clawing at his insides. Whoever was at the door, they had no idea the turmoil brewing in his home. It was probably nothing. A neighbor. Maybe someone looking for help. Yet, a primal fear gripped him, a gut instinct warning that this wasn't just an innocent visit. The past, it seemed, had a habit of barging in uninvited. He looked back at Elaine, her eyes wide with apprehension. The warmth that once filled their living room now felt suffocating, replaced by a cold tension he hadn't anticipated. How was he supposed to shield her from whatever truth lingered beyond that door? Bert reached for the knob and hesitated just a moment longer. His hand trembled briefly before he thrust it open, ready for anything except the sight before him. Standing there, silhouetted against the dim hallway, was a figure he hadn't seen in years. Mary. His heart stopped, his breath stuck in his throat like a stone. She looked the same yet different, aged, yes, but with a familiar fire in her eyes that suddenly reignited all the ghosts he had tried to bury. "Bert," she breathed, disbelief wrapping around her voice as if daring him to believe she was real. Elaine's hand flew to her mouth, a small gasp betraying her shock. The room spun, the air thick with danger and unspoken words. What the hell is she doing here? Bert thought, panic clawing at his chest. He felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the walls were closing in. "Mary, He stumbled over his words, struggling to find meaning in the chaos suddenly around him. How could she just show up like this? "What do you want? Can we talk?" Her voice was softer than he remembered, like the summer wind that whispered through the trees during lazy afternoons. But there was an edge to it, a sharpness that signaled something serious. He risked a glance over his shoulder. Elaine stood frozen, disbelief etched on her face. Could he turn her head, funnel her away from the storm? But the truth was, she deserved to know, even if revealing the truth held the potential to upend them both. Bert's heart thumped loudly in the silence, drawing Mary's attention back to him. "Now's not a good time," he said, his voice steadied by urgency. Please, Bert, she implored, her expression teetering on desperation. It's important. You need to hear what I have to say. This can change everything. Elena's eyes darted between them, uncertainty radiating from her. Anxiety slipped between them like a cold draft. What is it? She finally asked, voice trembling. What does she mean by that? Bert felt the walls of his world closing in. What was this truth that could change everything? Could it be the key that unlocked long-hidden secrets, the very thing he feared revealing? Elaine, he began, but the words wouldn't form. Mary stepped closer, breaking the fragile barrier. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to warn you. You have no idea what you're facing. Facing? Bert echoed, feeling the gravity of her words settle over him like a heavy blanket. What do you mean? I'm not the past. I'm the reflection of it. There's someone else coming, someone who knows everything about us. And you need to be ready. His stomach dropped. He had no idea what she was implying, but the hint of danger tangled with his heart, spiking his adrenaline. Just when Bert thought his world couldn't get any crazier, the truth began to unfold in the most unanticipated way. What do you know? He demanded, urgency clawing at his throat. Mary's eyes darkened, glancing nervously toward the entryway before her gaze snapped back to him. The shadows in the hallway grew longer, the atmosphere intensifying with every second. Then, without warning, her expression shifted to something he hadn't seen in a long time. It was fear. And it was real, and just outside that threshold, the soft but unmistakable crunching of footsteps echoed in the silence, drawing nearer. Bert's insides twisted. A new threat was on the horizon. What did Mary know? And who was waiting in the shadows? This wasn't just the past, it was a storm, and it was about to break. Bert's gaze locked onto Mary, her eyes wide and pleading. A whirlwind of emotions clawed at him: anger, confusion, fear. The air felt electric, as if charged with the weight of secrets that had festered too long in silence. He couldn't shake the feeling that the footsteps slowly approaching weren't just a simple annoyance or an unexpected visit, they were heralds of chaos. Who is coming? Bert's voice broke through the tension, rough and urgent. What do you know? Mary took a shaky breath, the weight of the world suffocating her. It's about your past, our past. There's someone out there who won't let it go. They want answers, Bert. Answers that you've kept buried. Elaine shifted nervously beside him, her expression now a perplexed mix of concern and indignation. What are you talking about? Who is out there? Mary's gaze darted to the door, then back to Bert, her fear palpable. The more you deny it, the worse it's going to get, she whispered, her voice a fragile thread weaving through the tense atmosphere. You can't keep running from it. You can't protect her this time. Bert clenched his fists, feeling his heart thundering in his chest. Protect her? What do you think I'm doing? If you cared all about me or her, you'd just walk away. But the footsteps grew louder, an ominous rhythm that matched the pounding of his heart. It felt like a countdown, and neither he nor Elaine had a clue what waited on the other side. What kind of answers? Bert pressed, his voice low but filled with fire. What does this person want? Mary opened her mouth to respond, but something caught her attention. The crunching of leaves and sticks outside was now unmistakable. An icy chill spread through the room. Bert was stuck between a past he had tried so hard to forget and a present unraveling fast. Suddenly, the doorframe seemed to throb, the wooden surface vibrating as if trying to manifest the tension brewing in the air. It cracked with a force that sent a pulse of dread through Bert. Shut up, Bert. They're here. Elaine hissed, grabbing his arm. He shook her off, unyielding. No. If someone is out there, I need to know why. I can't let fear seal us in. The crunching stopped, and silence enveloped them like a suffocating blanket. Beads of sweat formed on Bert's forehead, slicking the skin beneath his hair. Mary's shoulders tensed, and they all held their breath, listening, waiting. A shadow passed under the door, stretching ominously across the carpet. Another heartbeat louder than the last. Then, a knock resonated through the house, sharp and relentless. Bert's stomach dropped. If you're here to take me back, you're going to have to go through me first, he called out, voice steady despite his racing heart. The answer was silence, an unsettling stillness that made the room seem to expand and contract. Bert turned to Mary. "What have I gotten us into?" Then a voice, familiar but filled with disdain, sliced through the silence. "Funny I'm the one coming back for you, Bert. Didn't you think you had it in you to hide for so long?" Bert felt the blood drain from his face. He knew that voice, the voice of someone who had once been dangerously close to everything he loved. The footsteps were now pounding against the door, rhythmic and powerful, threatening to invade his sanctuary. As fear gripped him in its icy clutch, he turned to Elaine, whose expression mirrored his own mounting dread. Their safe haven, once filled with warmth and laughter, was now a battleground of secrets laid bare. "Elaine," he started, but the words faded, lost beneath the echo of that chilling voice. What lay beyond the door didn't just hold answers, it wielded the power to tear their world apart, and then it burst open. The shadow stepped into the light, revealing a face that ignited 1,000 memories, and all at once, Bert knew there would be no turning back. "Bert, I've come to collect what us owed." What did they want from him? What debts had he buried in the past, and would the reckoning destroy everything he held dear? The storm was no longer a shadow, it was crashing into their lives with a vengeance, and there was no escaping its fury. Bert's breath caught in his throat as he faced the figure emerging from the darkness. The man's face was worn but familiar, etched with anger and something deeper, a longing that twisted like a knife in Bert's gut. Jason. A name from the past, a ghost that had haunted him long enough. Jason. Bert's voice trembled, each syllable weighed down with dread. "What do you want?" "Answers, Bert." Jason stepped into the room, the door creaking ominously behind him, shutting out the last vestiges of safety. "You've hidden long enough. It's time to face what you owe." Elena's eyes flitted from Bert to Jason, confusion cracking through her fear. "Who is he?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Bert opened his mouth to explain, but the memory of shared dreams and laughter with Jason swept over him like a tidal wave, drowning out rational thought. He was back in their old apartment, the atmosphere heavy with untold stories and desperate love. Suddenly, he was that young man again, trying to hold on to a life filled with hope, the bond that had brought them together now the very thing tearing them apart. "Stop hiding behind your regrets," Jason accused, stepping closer. "It's pathetic. Just face it." Elena's hand tightened around Bert's arm, her pulse racing with the escalating tension. "What happened between you two?" Bert's heart raced. The truth loomed thick in the air, monstrous and unyielding. Would revealing it tear them apart or somehow bring them closer? "It's complicated," he whispered, casting a desperate glance at Mary for support. "Complicated? Is that what we're calling it now?" Jason scoffed, shaking his head with derision. The tension in the room pinned them against the wall, leaving them gasping for air. A sickening feeling curdled in Bert's stomach. "I thought I could bury it. I thought time would heal." "Time doesn't erase debts," Jason shot back, anger brimming in his voice. "You made a promise, now you need to keep it." A pregnant silence filled the room. Bert felt every second linger like a heavy weight as the truth clawed at him, desperate to be unleashed. He had run for years, hiding behind the facade of a clean slate. But Jason had come to collect, to pull the rug out from under him and expose the scars he had worked so hard to heal. "Just tell me what you want." Bert burst out, his voice echoing with frustration and fear. "If it's money, I'll give it. If it's revenge, what do you hope to gain?" Jason stepped back, allowing a flicker of surprise to pass across his face. "Revenge? No. I'm here to show you what you've denied all this time." Bert took a deep breath, searching for strength. Anger ignited inside him, fueled by the fury of being dragged back into this nightmare. "You have no right to demand anything from me. Don't I?" Jason's expression twisted, something softer flickering through the porcelain surface of his anger. "You were everything, and you turned your back. Now it's time to face the consequences." The walls seemed to close in, a tightening vice around his consciousness. Mary's presence echoed like a lifeline, urging him to break free from the grip of the past. He looked at Jason, searching for proof that this wasn't just a vendetta, but instead found only the remnants of shared history and pain. "Bert, please." Mary's voice filled the silence, her plea drawing them back. "You need to confront this. You owe it to yourself, to all of us." A choice loomed ahead of him like a darkened path shrouded in uncertainty. Would he lead Elaine and Mary down a road filled with painful truths, or would he fight to protect them from the wreckage of a life he had attempted to escape? Every heartbeat thrummed with the urgency of the moment, but before he could respond, Jason lunged forward, stepping closer, invading Bert's space. "I know you've been lying to yourself, and now you're going to face it head-on." Bert's heart raced. The ground beneath him felt unstable, filled with cracks that could swallow him whole. And just as doubt began to creep in, Jason leaned in closer, whispering, "There's something you need to know, something about what happened before you ran." A crescendo of uncertainty crashed over Bert, and in that instant, he understood this confrontation was only the beginning. Now the shadows were rising, determined to consume everything he cared for. What was the truth Jason held? What destruction would unfold? As the storm of emotions roiled within him, Bert stood on the precipice of revelation, everything he believed at stake. And with the weight of the past ready to crash down upon them, he could only wonder how much was he willing to sacrifice to shield those he loved from the encroaching darkness? Bert's chest tightened as he faced Jason, the air thick with unspoken truths. "What do you mean?" he managed to whisper, though the words barely left his mouth. The question hung like a guillotine, sharp and ready to drop. Jason leaned in, his voice just above a murmur. "It's about the accident," he said, each word a calculated dagger aimed straight for Bert's heart. "You can't forget it. You can't ignore it. It's why you ran." Time stilled for a breath. A million memories collided in Bert's mind, the sound of screeching tires, the sickening crunch of metal, the frantic rush of sirens. It was a ghost story haunted by lingering guilt, one he thought he had buried deep. "Stop," he said, trembling. "You don't know what you're talking about." But Jason's eyes burned with a fierce determination. "Oh, but I do. You think you can just forget? You left us behind, Bert. You left me, and more importantly, you left her." Elaine's grip tightened on Bert's arm, her confusion morphing into fear. "What happened in the accident?" Bert opened his mouth, but the words stumbled over one another, trapped in a web of shame and regret. He wanted to protect her from this darkness, but with Jason's relentless pursuit, the truth was clawing its way to the surface like a caged animal desperate for escape. "It was an accident, Elaine." I didn't what?" Jason interjected, his sneer bitter yet oddly coated with sadness. "You didn't mean to? You didn't mean to feel guilty? You ran because facing it hurt too much." "No," Bert shouted, the agony of the past crashing over him like a tidal wave. "Jason, enough. This isn't solving anything. Just let it go." A silence fell, heavy and oppressive. The sounds of the world outside seemed muted as Jason and Bert stood locked in a standoff. Elaine's face paled, looking between the two men as if caught in a thunderstorm. The tension was a living thing in the room, crackling, making it impossible to breathe. Jason took a step back, his posture strangely deflated, and yet his eyes shimmered with unresolved pain. "You think you're better now, that you can pretend none of this exists. But it does, Bert. You owe it to her to tell her the truth. What was done is not erased just because you choose to ignore it." Bert felt the ground shift beneath him, and in that moment, the hard truths began to crack through his defenses. "I can't hurt her," he said, an edge of desperation leaking into his voice. "No, you're already hurting her by lying," Jason replied, his tone softening for a brief moment. "She deserves to know." "We all do." Mary's expression turned from confusion to dawning horror, understanding hitting her all at once. "Bert, what are you hiding?" Bert's heart raced under the weight of their stares, their expectations pressing down on him. The love he felt for Elaine, for Mary, thrummed in his chest, but so did the dread. Would this destroy everything he had rebuilt? Jason sighed, a sound filled with the gravity of their shared past. "You thought you were escaping, but you're on the same road. Just a little further along. The truth waits for you, Bert, and it won't stay buried forever." Bert's mind spiraled. What were they capable of accepting? The world seemed upside down, a mosaic of grief and betrayal. He opened his mouth, a multitude of confessions poised on his lips. But at that moment, there was a loud bang from the door, an authoritative shove that made them all jump. A figure burst through the entrance, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. Police. Everyone remain calm. Bert's heart stopped. What now? The turmoil inside him clashed with the urgency of the moment, and he caught Jason's eye. This was not the ending he had prepared for. As the officers scanned the room, Bert realized the walls were closing in, and there was nowhere to run, only the truth, and it was about to bring everything crashing down. What would happen now? Would the past tear them apart, or could honesty forge a new beginning? In that precarious moment, he knew one thing for certain. The reckoning had only just begun. The officers moved into the room like a swarm, eyes sharp and assessing. Everyone, hands where we can see them. One shouted, his voice booming, drowning out the chaos weaving through Bert's mind. For a split second, no one moved. Bert was frozen, heart racing, and palms clammy. The truth that had been creeping toward the surface now felt like a loaded gun, and the officers were the trigger. Elaine's grip faltered. "What is happening?" she whispered, her voice quavering. Her innocent confusion sent a wave of guilt crashing over Bert, a fresh wound opening. "Stay quiet," Jason urged her, his eyes darting between the officers and Bert, the flicker of panic unmistakable. Jason knew how precarious the situation was. "They don't know yet," he added, eyes narrowing at Bert. "But they will, if you don't enough." Bert snapped, breaking free from the rising tide of dread. He could feel the weight of it, pressing down on his chest. The officers stepped closer. "You in the shirt. What is your name?" one of the officers asked, pointing at Bert. Bert stammered, unsure of which name to give them. The one he had lived under, or the one that carried the burden of the past. The choice felt suffocating. Bert Hollis, he finally found his voice. The officer nodded and glanced at his partner. "We're looking for someone related to a vehicle incident not far from here last weekend. Witnesses reported a connection to a Mr. Hollis." Bert's gut twisted. The accident. His accident. The one he had tried so hard to escape. "That wasn't me," he fought to say, but the words came out hollow, an echo of lies that had never truly sounded like the truth. "Then explain why you were near the scene," the officer continued, a sharpness in his tone. Time seemed to stop, but Bert's heart raced. Jason's words filled his head, wrapping around him like a noose. "You owe it to her to tell her the truth." The urgency of the moment squeezed every breath from his lungs. "Sir, do you know anything about the driver?" the other officer asked, his gaze piercing through the tension in the room. "Witnesses said the vehicle was a dark blue sedan. That match anything for you?" Everyone held their breath. Bert felt the weight of their stares, an expected reckoning drawing near. Truth or a lie? Would he betray them all? "I wasn't there." "I don't." Bert faltered, his voice draping in doubt. The fabric of reality seemed to tear as memories flashed like lightning faces, regret, moments that chained him to a past he was desperate to leave behind. "Bert, you're lying," Jason said, his voice cutting through the fog of confusion, harsh and unyielding. Elaine took a step back, her brows knitting together in growing fear. "Bert, what does he mean?" The air crackled with tension. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff. Bert could feel it now. The truth was a beast thrashing against the confines of his heart. Just when he thought he might swallow it, a woman's voice rose from behind the officers, breaking through the chaos. "I know him." Unbelievably confident, the voice held an air of authority. Bert turned to face her. It was Lisa, a figure from his past, someone he hoped had long moved on. "What are you doing here?" he asked, dread creeping into his chest. "I came to help, Bert." The glint in her eyes was sharp as she stepped forward. "But you have to face the truth." The room spiraled. The ground felt unstable beneath Bert's feet as he struggled to find his ground in this tempest of truth and revelation. "Let us see what else you're hiding then." Jason's voice trailed off, the implication hanging heavy in the air. As tension hung like a storm cloud, Bert knew the time for choice had come. Would he reveal what lurked in the shadows? And could he withstand the fallout of the truth? Everything was about to unravel. Would the truth redeem him, or seal his fate? The choice was his, and it was more dangerous than he could ever imagine. "Bert, don't do this," Lisa urged, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "You have to tell them the truth. It's the only way." He shook his head, panic flooding his chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. After everything he'd done to bury the past, to start fresh with Elaine and Jason by his side, he couldn't go back. Not now, not ever. "Who is she, Bert?" Jason demanded, stepping forward, eyes ablaze with suspicion and anger. "What are you hiding? Tell us." But deep down, Bert felt trapped between two worlds, two lives. The one he had crafted, so carefully stitched together, and the dark reality that had been his past. "It doesn't matter," he said, voice breaking. "I'm not that person anymore." "Then tell them that." Lisa shot back, her demeanor shifting from supportive to fierce. "You think that lying will protect them? You're wrong, Bert. It will only lead to more pain." As the weight of her words settled, his heart raced violently. The officer's presence felt like looming shadows, waiting for his next move, while Elaine's confusion twisted like a knife in his gut. She deserved better than this. "Tell the truth. Just say it." Jason pressed, his frustration swelling, fists clenching tightly by his sides. Every eye was on him, every second stretching into unbearable silence. Bert's breaths came shallow, desperation clawing at his throat. If he spoke the words that lingered in his mind, it could ruin everything. I was there," he finally whispered, the admission hanging heavy in the air. It felt like tearing open a festering wound. "I was in the car." The officer's expression shifted, a mixture of surprise and expectation. "Why didn't he say so?" One of them pressed, voice sharper now, as if sensing blood in the water. Because Bert hesitated, the urge to take everything back clawing at him. But Lisa's fierce gaze urged him on. "Because I was driving. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake." Gasps echoed around the room. Elaine recoiled, hurt flooding her eyes. "What do you mean? You're saying you caused the accident?" Bert's heart sank. "No, it wasn't intentional. I swear." "I thought what?" Jason interrupted, pacing, anger breaking through the cracks of panic. "That you would get away with it? That it wouldn't matter?" "It matters," Bert yelled, the floodgates of emotion breaking wide open. "It matters to me more than anyone. It was an accident. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt." "You've hurt us now," Jason shot back, the betrayal hanging thick in the air. "You let us believe you were innocent, that you were free of this." "I am. I tried to be. I just wanted a new life for you both." Bert stammered, the implosion collapsing his carefully constructed facade. "I thought I could outrun it." "I am so sorry." "A new life built on lies is still a lie, Bert." Lisa's voice sliced through the air, her disappointment clear. "You can't build something new on the ashes of your old mistakes." The officers exchanged glances, their expressions shifting as they processed Bert's confession. The tension tightened around them like a noose, as Bert felt the world tilting dangerously off its axis. Elaine's eyes filled with tears as she took a step back, shaking her head. I can't believe you." "Who are you really?" The weight of her words hit him like a brick. Bert felt a chill creeping up his spine, drowning in despair. He had tried so hard to leave it behind, yet here it was, raising its ugly head once again. "You'll regret this moment," an officer said coldly, turning toward the exit. "I need to speak to my partner." "Wait," Bert shouted, desperation clawing at his voice. But he knew he was losing them all. He could feel it like a tightening grip on his throat. Just then, a sharp, jarring crash echoed from outside the room, rattling the walls, and everyone jolted. "What was that?" one of the officers called, eyes darting toward the door. Bert's heart thundered as dread slid down his spine. Had someone discovered something more volatile? Was this new world he had tried to build about to come crashing down around him? Because deep down, he knew more secrets were afoot, and this was only the beginning. What else was hidden in the shadows, waiting to surface? The crash echoed again, sharper this time, sending another wave of shock through the room. Bert could feel the cold sweat pooling at his back, the panicked eyes of his loved ones locking onto him as though he was the source of all their suffering. "What is happening out there?" Jason demanded, his voice rising. The officer nearest the door moved cautiously toward it, hand hovering over his holstered weapon. "Stay back," he barked, turning his head slightly as if bracing for an attack. Bert's heart raced wildly. The past was creeping into his present faster than he could breathe. What if they found out more? He thought, fear curling like smoke around his mind. His past was a whisper away from exploding. Elaine stepped toward him, her expression shifting from anger to something deeper: fear? Disbelief? "You didn't just lie to us about being innocent, Bert. You've been lying for years." Her voice trembled. "What else haven't you told us?" "I wanted to protect you," he pleaded, stepping forward, but the distance between them felt insurmountable. "I didn't want you dragged into it. Please, don't think the worst of me. I am not that man anymore." But she recoiled as if struck. "How am I supposed to believe you? Lies were all we had. This is the truth?" Jason clenched his fists tighter, his eyes lighting with a mix of fury and sorrow. "You think this was about protection? It was deception. Everything you said, everything was built on a foundation of lies. How could you do this?" Before Bert could respond, the door burst open, revealing chaos on the other side. Another officer stormed into the room, breathless, panic etched on his face. "We have a situation," he shouted. "Two suspects have fled the scene." "What suspects?" the first officer asked, looking momentarily taken aback. "Witnesses said they saw a car matching the description of the one involved in the accident. We're dealing with a potential second crash site nearby." The gravity of the news unleashed a wave of confusion and dread, pulling everyone in the room into an unexpected whirlwind. Jason looked at Bert, his face turning stone cold. "Did you know? Is this connected to you somehow?" No, I swear." Bert's voice cracked, the panic clawing at his throat. "I didn't know anyone else was involved. I didn't think anyone else was there." "Your past doesn't leave you, Bert. You might try to run, but it finds you in the mess of your choices." Lisa spat, her eyes hard and relentless. Bert felt the world closing in. The hope he had once built felt like glass, shattering into 1,000 impossible shards. The noise from outside grew louder, a rush of commotion thrumming at the walls, like a storm breaking. "It's not over. It can't be," he thought, wrestling against the tide of despair. But as the officers shouted orders through the cacophony, and as Jason's crestfallen gaze bore into him, Bert realized just how fragile the web of his life had become. And then, like a stark specter moving in the dark corners of his mind, came one final question, the one that thudded like a heartbeat in his chest. Who were those suspects? And what did they want from you? Because deep down, Bert understood, if they were connected to everything he had desperately tried to bury, then nothing would remain safe. And now, the truth was like an unsolved puzzle waiting to be pieced together. But who would pay the price when the last shred of darkness was pulled into the light? The chaos spilled into the room like a raging tide, crashing against everything Bert had held dear. The voices of the officers blended with murmurs of confusion and fear from Elaine and Mary. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, heavy and suffocating. Bert felt like he was drowning beneath waves of dread and regret. He had thought he could outrun the past, but it had stormed back like a vengeful spirit. The memories, filled with pain and mistakes, clawed at his insides. And now he stood at the brink, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Elaine's voice trembled as her eyes searched his for answers. What is going on? With each heartbeat, the world around him blurred. He had one chance to set things right, to finally peel back the layers of lies and expose the truth that had haunted him for far too long. I should have told you everything. I can't protect you anymore, he choked out, every word feeling like a chain link pulled tight around his throat. The accident wasn't just a mistake, it was part of something bigger. Jason's eyes were stormy, wild with betrayal and urgency. Bert, if you know something, now is the time. Before he could respond, the chaos outside erupted into the room like a whirlwind, a final breath of storms unleashed. The officers were frantically assessing the situation, their attention on the door that had barely contained the brewing tempest. The air crackled, and Bert could sense the dread closing in. I made a decision that night. A choice that kept me running the consequences I never anticipated. His voice was laden with regret, raw and exposed. I couldn't face the truth about what really happened at that accident, but you all deserve to know. Elaine, confused yet resolute, stepped closer. What do you mean? Just tell me. Stop hiding behind all this. Bert's heart raced. It was never just me behind the wheel. There was someone else who didn't make it out. A childhood friend, a part of the darkness I thought I could leave behind. Tension hung in the air as he fought against the rising tide of panic. Jason had been so angry, and it led to us racing that night. I thought I could keep both sides apart, but they collided. And now, the truth is coming back to haunt me. To haunt us. Jason's expression flickered with a mix of sympathy and confusion. You were racing? Why didn't you ever say anything? You let me think it was just a random accident. Sometimes the truth feels like a knife, Jason. I thought I was protecting everyone. Bert cried, the walls of resolve crumbling around him. Lisa, moving closer, added her voice, heavy with emotion. You can't pretend it didn't happen. You need to face the past, whatever it is. Everything felt like it was crashing down, their lives hanging on a desperate thread. Listen to me. The people I thought I left behind are creeping back in. I never meant for this to drag you all into my chaos, he pleaded, looking from Elaine to Mary and back. The door burst open once again, a figure stepping through the chaos, wild-eyed and desperate, a familiar face. It was someone Bert hadn't seen in ages, yet memories of joy crashed back like ghosts, reminders of innocence lost. Bert, you need to come with me. The urgency in the newcomer's voice sliced through the tension thick in the air. What have you done? Elaine's voice quivered, her heart an open wound. Sorry I'm late, the figure said, glancing between the officers and the room full of betrayal. But this involves you too. Believe me, we don't have time. As Bert felt the ground beneath him shift wildly, he knew this was the moment of truth. Everything had converged, and the past demanded to be faced. The only way out was through the storm, and he would have to carve his way back to himself. With newfound determination, Bert turned his gaze to Elaine and Mary, his resolve solidifying. We're doing this together. I'm not letting any of this tear us apart, he said, his voice adamant and unyielding. Whatever it takes, we'll face it, Elaine whispered, tears mingling with hope, her trust in him flickering like a flame against the darkest night. Bert took a deep breath, the weight of honesty heavy yet liberating. And with every heartbeat, he stepped closer to the door, ready to face the consequences of the past, anchored by the love of those he would fight for. Let us end this, he declared, and together, they began to navigate the storm. The truth was a bridge they would cross, hand in hand, finally ready to embrace the light that awaited them on the other side. And with that, the past that had loomed over them finally began to fade, swallowed by the hope of a new dawn. Now, as the credits roll on this chapter, join us for the next one. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What do you think will happen next? And please, instantly share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this jaw-dropping conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.